In today's video, I'll talk about setting up expectations going into a job interview. And the first topic I'm going to discuss here is many of you expect a job interview to be a fair process, when in fact, in my opinion, you must understand really what you're getting into here, because if you're correlating a job interview with an exam, I believe you must also keep in mind the end goal, the end results of these experiences. For a job interview, you're applying for a for-profit business, whereas for an exam, you're applying for essentially a university or a school. So you get the point. So I think the best way to look at these interviews is that you are a risk, right? And this is, how the employers are actually thinking as well. They are recently trying to make these processes more fair by employing as many people as possible and making them as structured as possible in order to mitigate risk for them. So for you as a candidate, if you look at yourself as a risk, both for the HR department that you're screening with, probably in the phone screening rounds, as well as with the hiring manager who ultimately makes the decision, it's a risk-based decision making. So long story short, I wouldn't expect an interview to be a fair process. I don't believe that's the best way to think about it when compared to the risk assessment. The second area I want to touch upon here, going into a job interview that many people are not really aware of, is that job interviews or job descriptions, are accurate. So to understand this, you must probably look at this from a couple of angles. The first angle is that an employer has very little interest of being too transparent into what they're actually looking for and at any point in time. And the simple reason for this is because many people will be able to exploit that information. So if they really tell you what they're actually looking for, the main core competencies of the role that they're trying to fill in, many people will try to exploit exactly those things. And if you'll be following my YouTube channel, you'll know that I often advise you to try to find out, to make them spill the beans on these things. So that's the first reason why a job description is not that accurate. The second reason why a job description is not accurate is because you must understand the process. The process is that they are employing a software that already has some pretty good templates that might actually have worked for previous roles, for similar roles, which they actually clone. They simply make a clone of that job description and they publish it, and that's going to be the job description. It's only natural for someone not to invest too much time into customizing the job description because it's something that already worked, right? So why would you change something that works? This is, again, a business, in a business setting. And last but not least, they might not even know what the ideal candidate looks like for that role, simply because they might be hiring in bulk, or simply because that that job description is a great ad, is a great way to advertise that they notice that brings in so many candidates. So that's another reason why a job description is not supposed to be a very accurate one. Now, what can you do about this? Well, if you believe that this is a very important thing for you, and again, it's a very subjective question, you can simply ask them right in the beginning of the interview, or even before beginning an interview. Hey, what do you think about the job description? Is it accurate? How reliable is the information contained in this document? But overall, it's not uncommon to hear from people that, hey, Dan, the job description said one thing, but they were looking for an entirely different thing. So just so you should know about these things to, again, correctly set your expectations going into a job interview. And the final point I want to touch upon here is another misconception here, is that many of you expect, look at an interviewer as someone who enjoys to grill you and enjoys interviewing you, when in fact, from my experience, is that most interviewers do not actually like interviewing. So imagine yourself getting a job with your dream company, and imagine yourself investing 3 hours every week, or 3 hours would be maybe 5 hours, more like 5 hours every week to interview people. right? Imagine yourself being, I don't know, a developer if you want. And as a developer, you're interviewing other developers for 3 hours or 5 hours every week. You didn't go there to interview people, right? You're not interviewing for an HR position, right? After all. So the idea that the point I'm trying to make here is that your interviewer might not enjoy that much the process either. And there are, a couple of ways to exploit this. I mean, I'll let you decide this for yourself. And I also have plenty of other content on this YouTube channel as to how to go about these things. But keep in mind that the interviewers usually don't like interviewing either. But it's something that's, it's, if you remember in the beginning, I said that companies are investing resources into making the hiring process as structured as possible, simply because, that it's a risk assessment. The risk is lower for them to hire someone that's unsuitable for the role. So this is how it goes. And maybe just one more angle to look at this on why your interviewer really doesn't enjoy the process that much either, is that the bar raiser. So you might think the bar raiser is someone imposed in a company to raise the bar, the hiring bar, and the overall process there. And this is true only to a certain point. The other point is that it's very rare for an employer to find someone who's really good and enjoys interviewing, right? And they must incentivize that person with that status of a bar raiser. And this is also an angle that you should look at from the candidate's perspective. So a bar raiser becomes a bar raiser simply because they are between the very few people over there that really actually enjoy interviewing people and actually spend brain cycles to interview candidates properly. So there's this. So again, to recap here, so don't expect the job interview to be a fair process, but more like of a risk assessment these days. Your job description could be accurate, but if you have the slightest doubt, or if you could further clarify, that's always a worthwhile investment of your time. And keep in mind that your interviewer is more likely on the same side with you, that they don't really enjoy interviewing either for this experience. And of course, you must ideally look for ways to capitalize on all these behaviors. So hopefully you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.